Hello, it's day 126 for the Liberator project, and today I'm going to do a bit of vegan cooking because it turned out last time I did some vegan cooking that a few vegans, not all of them, but a few, were a little bit unhappy that I used ingredients such as butter, eggs and beef. So today I'm doing a purely vegan dish which I don't think anyone could object to. Well, other than normal people, because my God, they really could do with some beef. But we're not even doing vegetarian. It's a vegan dish today. So, what do you want in the cold weather? You want a nice hot bowl of soup, maybe. But what you really want is a glass of extremely cheap white wine. So, it's a quiz, but you failed already. Right. Okay. Today's bargain bucket wine. Now, I just polished off the Chilean. That was $4.25, and that was really, really quite poor. You know, I mean, it's 12%, but it wasn't what you'd call a pleasant vintage. And what I've got is here. I think we may have had this one before. Not exactly sure. McGuigan Chardonnay. This was, pricely sum of £5 a bottle. You don't even have to have a special offer. It is just £5 a bottle. I think if you bought 6, you could probably get a bottle free or something like that, which says something. It's Australian, and it's 13% by volume alcohol. How wrong can it be? Well, after the Chilean wine, this is actually a step up. This is actually a much nicer wine than the Chilean one. So for an extra 75 pence, you know, you can definitely taste the improvement. However, I wouldn't recommend this as a wine to go with an important meal. Obviously, this is cooking wine, and what I mean by cooking wine is wine that I drink when I'm cooking. So, cheers. Zdraví. Yes, it's got a real sweetness to it. It's almost like a Riesling or something. It's really quite too sweet for my taste. It tastes like you've mixed a Chardonnay with a Riesling. It tastes like a bad German wine mixed with, I don't know what it's mixed with, but it's certainly not a bouquet I'd recommend. But for £5 a bottle, this is definitely a Liberator project favourite. So cheers. Okay, stage 1 out the way. So today I'm going to make a nice winter soup. Now, the trouble with vegan food, vegetarian to a point, but especially vegan, is that everything ends up being like baby food. It ends up being a mush. It comes very, very samey. So what I've done is I'm going to make 2 parts of this soup. One is going to be the base, which is a nice curried parsnip, and that's going to bond it all together. And then on top of that, we have the vegetables cooked separately or in a second stage process, because that means that it doesn't all turn into baby food. You get textures, and I think that's important with food, is you get different textures and different flavours, and trying to keep them separate without using beef dripping and chunks of steak. Not always easy, but this is vegan day. Don't worry, we'll get back onto the liver casserole next time. But okay, today, what have I done? Now, I've actually prepared stuff in advance, just so I can do this all in one video. Hang on, step 1 still. I can do this all in one video than having to break it down into lots of different parts. So I've done a little bit of cooking before you arrived, and it's your fault. You've got no one to blame but yourself. I've already done that, but I'll talk you through it. It's really easy. I mean, how hard can it be? What I've done is I have my big pot, and what I've done is I've put in that, I couldn't find the big bottles of spring water, they'd sold out, but I put a bottle and a half of spring water in there. Then I've added a good shake of salt. I don't like salt, but you do need it, I'm afraid, especially when you're cooking things. And into that I've put some parsnips. Now, they've been chopped up into big chunks. I mean, almost the size of roast potatoes. I mean, seriously large chunks for parsnips. And the reason is they're going to be used to mush down to make the base, the sauce if you like. So I put them in the pan, I boiled them, and I boiled them for longer than you'd normally cook parsnips for, so they went a bit mushy, because that's what you want. You want it to break down into a puree. Let's not get too technical with the cooking terms. A mush, okay? So when they were done, I fished them out using this. Don't scrape it on the bottom of your pan because it will damage your pan. Just, you know, the parsnips are easy. Just get them out, put them into a suitable bowl, and then I used my liquidizer. I might have added a little bit more water to make it work. And what I've produced is, you can see here, it's a bowl of parsnip puree. Now that's going to be the fundamental sauce that binds it all together. But, you know, we'll come back to that in a minute. That's pre-prepared. Now you're up to speed. We'll carry on. Hang on. I'm not up to speed yet. Oh my. Okay. I've prepared a lot of things in advance to make things easier. So, what we need, I'll put this out. Right, into the pot we put. Now I used 3 parsnips in big chunks that got boiled to buggery to make the puree, and the remaining, it's quite a large parsnip, the last one I've made it into, chopped it into much smaller pieces than you would normally chop a parsnip, so that's about between 10 and 20 mil cubes of parsnips, and all we do is put that into the water. Now this is the water that previously boiled the parsnips. You want to keep that, everything adds to the flavour, and you know, so just add them to your pot. This is much like a borscht when you keep adding stuff to the pot. I quite like this. Right, I've also done, this is a swede. Now this is all, I'm not using cabbage or beetroot or onions. What I'm doing, this is all root vegetables today. So this is a swede. You can use turnips, use whatever you feel like. But, again, cut down. That's probably a little bit too large, those chunks, but no, you can't get too fussed about things where you get stressed in life. You've got to relax. So the fact these are slightly too big doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm adding that into the pot. Well, eventually I'm adding it into the pot. Right, so into this pot that was already had parsnips boiled in it, swede, small parsnips, and next one, again, root vegetable, little bits of potato. Now these are again chopped much smaller than you'd normally chop potatoes. They're 10 to 20 mil cubes, and you know, you want that for a soup. You don't want a borscht is great. You end up with great big chunks of things, you know, chunks of liver, kidney, heart, big vegetables. No, we're making a winter soup today, sort of curried parsnip soup. So we want these things to be a little bit smaller and more manageable. You know, if you don't want to sort of have to actually eat it, you want, if it's in your mouth, you want to be able to chew and swallow it. So that's about as big as you want. And again, carrots. And as you see, what I've done is I've chopped the carrots in half before chopping them up. Excuse me. Oh, that's that wine. So anyway, they're smaller than normal, which is good. So they're smaller pieces. You can see that. That goes into the pot. Pretty easy so far, really, isn't it? So anyway, now we have, as I'm making a soup, what it's going to have is pearl barley. You know, all these ingredients are to taste. You know, if you particularly like something or don't like it, add it or ignore it or don't. You know, do what you want. It's you can, as you're cooking, taste things. If it's going wrong, correct the problem and make it to what you like. You know, there's no rules here. It's all trying to make a meal that you're happy with. So, right. Of course, after like a couple of bottles of that wine, you're probably happy with anything you're cooking at the time. But bear in mind, this makes a lot of soup, and you're going to have to eat it the next day with a hangover. Okay, so there's pearl barley. Put that in as well. Turn the heat up a bit. Okay. Right, we're nearly there now. Now, I've pre-prepared this. These are the spices that you need. So if you look, we have oregano. That gives it a nice sort of mid-range flavour. if I'm trying to think of it in a sort of terms of music, you know, you want something that gives it a nice mid-range, and the oregano, I always find that does that very nicely. I've got some coarse ground black pepper, which is probably going to make me sneeze. Oh God, it really is. Oh, God. And some mild curry powder. I'll put that in the pot before it gets to me. Right, put that in. Now this is a, go through the ingredients. Well, you know, if you don't know what oregano is, look it up. But oregano, coarse ground peppercorns, parsnips, and curried parsnips are much better with coarse ground peppercorns. I really like it. And we're not making a curry, we're just using this to sort of give it a bit of a nice warming flavour, so medium curry powder is fine. Usually I'd recommend getting the hotter stuff, but there we go. And as always, the lousy wooden tools, but I'm afraid technology means that you do need those. Okay, right, stir those in. And leave that now to simmer for a bit. Basically, you're going to cook the those vegetables. It takes probably about 5-10 minutes. I might have to end before then, because you don't want to sort of watch a boiling pan for 5 minutes. But I'm quite happy watching the pan. I mean, I'm good here, but I think, you know, without imbibing in this rather startling wine, I don't think you're going to enjoy it as much as I am. But cheers. Oh yes. Now, because this is vegan, and I'm so tempted to use beef dripping, but that would be a bad thing. That would be bad in a vegan dish. So what I've got to do, you've got to thicken it up. Now, I have the parsnip puree for later. That's once, you don't want to put it in yet. You want to get the vegetables cooked a bit first, because they need the water. They need, you know, it's quite runny. You know, you want to get the vegetables cooked in that liquid first of all, and then you want to add the parsnips towards the end and stir it in. Probably the last stage you want to do is add that. But what you do need to thicken it up, as I'm not allowed beef dripping. So many things I cook got beef dripping. It's shocking, but anyway, not today. I'm being good. Right, I've got this. Now this is rice flour. Now you can use corn flour. It's not, again, it's not a major thing. And what I've done is this is rice flour stirred in with some water, some hot water, and whisked up till it's quite a sort of suspension. Now this will thicken your soup up, and you know, it's, if you want a nice hearty soup, I'm afraid you will need something, a thickening agent. So rice is not so bad. I mean, it's not like I'm using chemicals. So let's put that in. Since I did it, it's set. Oh, okay. Well, I might have to deal with that off camera, because I can't do that one-handed. But yeah, what I would do is I'll deal with that off camera. Basically, you know, depending on the pot, tablespoon or two of rice flour, put in a glass, hot water, whisk it up to make a liquid, and you pour that into your soup, and that's going to thicken it up. It's going to basically replace the animal fats in gelling it together. So rice flour is the answer to that. And you see, this is, well, it's right now. You leave that for 10 minutes. You boil it. Basically, you cook your potatoes, carrots. Not you know, not to bits. Just make sure they're cooked through. They're soft, basically. So you know, as they say in Essex, that'll be al dente, which means not quite cooked enough. And then when that's done, you add in your you stir in your parsnip puree. You stir that all together, and bingo, you turn off the heat and leave it for a day, and then you have a very nice curried parsnip soup that's purely vegan, and I don't get into trouble with our peachykins for making something that's got animal products in. Anyway, I hope that's useful to you. Yeah, we're not going to wait for the well, I mean, I'll wait for a little bit, I suppose, to see what happens, but I don't think that's ready yet. Yeah, this is going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to leave you now, and that's all you need to do to make your soup. You can work it out. I'll put the ingredients up on the Facebook page, but very easy. Nice thick curried parsnip and vegetable soup for those cold days, and you have it with crusty bread and a nice fillet steak. Damn, I was doing so well. And you have it with nice crusty bread and a glass of McGuigan Chardonnay. Okay, that's the Liberapay project for today. Again, you know, I can't buy my boat, so I'm enjoying playing the guitar, you know, drinking, cooking, generally enjoying life at the moment. So hopefully we'll get back onto the boat, you know, in a few days' time. But in the meantime, here we go, some soup for you. Please have a go with cooking. You know, it's like, it's how wrong can it go? If it starts going too badly wrong, correct it. And if it's too bad, I mean, these vegetables only cost a couple of pounds, so you can experiment, you can try all sorts of things. And over the years, I've certainly experimented a lot in the kitchen. And to be fair, I've only ever had one dish that was horrible once I'd finished. And that was, I went to an African trade fair in Cambridge, and they had some tomato bread. And I thought, that was delicious, I can make that myself. And it ended up as a bright pink, solid house brick. It was just absolutely inedible. But apart from that, you know, I've done pretty well with things. And I find that you can usually correct things. If not, you know, in here we've got a bottle of ketchup, and over here we've got a wine, and there's another bottle in the fridge. So how wrong can it be? Okay, that's it for today. Thanks a lot. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.